Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. Hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 7, the elevations, from verses 68 to 73. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. أبلغكم رسالات ربي وأنا لكم ناصح أمين. I convey to you the messages of my Lord, and I am a trustworthy advisor to you. أو عجبتم أن جاءكم ذكر من ربكم على رجل منكم لينذركم واذكروا إذا جعلكم خلفاء من بعد قوم نوح وزادكم في الخلق بسطة فاذكروا آلاء الله لعلكم تفلحون. Are you surprised that a reminder has come to you from your Lord through a man from among you to warn you? Remember how he made you successors after the people of Noah and increased you greatly in stature, and remembers God's blessings so that you may prosper. قالوا أجئتنا لنعبد الله وحده ونذر ما كان يعبد آباؤنا فآتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. They say, did you come to us to make us serve God alone and abandon what our ancestors used to serve? Then bring us what you threaten us with if you are truthful. قال قد وقع عليكم من ربكم رجز وغضب أتجادلونني في أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما نزل الله بها من سلطان فانتظروا إني معكم من المنتظرين. He said, condemnation and wrath have befallen you from your Lord. Are you arguing with me over names which you and your ancestors invented, for which God sent down no authority? Just wait, I am waiting with you. فأنجيناه والذين معه برحمة منا وقطعنا دابر الذين كذبوا بآياتنا وما كانوا مؤمنين. So we saved him and those with him by mercy from us, and we cut off the roots of those who rejected our revelations and were not believers. وإلى ثمود أخاهم صالحا قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره قد جاءتكم بينة من ربكم هذه ناقة الله لكم آية فذروها تأكل في الأرض الله ولا تمسوها بسوء فيأخذكم عذاب أليم. And to Thamud, their brother Salih, he said, O my people, worship God. You have no deity other than him. Clarification has come to you from your Lord. This she-camel of God is a sign for you. So leave her to graze on God's earth and do not harm her, lest a painful penalty seize you. Sadaqallah al-Azim. God the Great said the truth. The verses in this page are carrying on where we left off in regards to the tradition of God and what the messengers usually endure. We talked about Noah in the last page, and then we started to talk about Hud, who was sent to Ad. Now, the story is repeating the way that we understand how the story usually repeats. But it's very clear that in that region, which is in the Middle East, we're going from one superpower to another. So if we went to Noah and the people of Noah, where they were strong, they were established on the land, and God has removed them. In here, one of the things that is being presented to the people of Ad, that Hud is telling them that God has made you successors and he has given you a blessings, successors of the land after the people of Noah. So we could clearly see that there is this concept of succession from one tribe or one nation to another nation. And I believe this is ongoing and carrying on. And every time God is removing a nation, which usually acts in the similar manner of what these lessons we are learning about these people that have been removed, God is sending a messenger and then he's allowing someone else to take their place when they become oppressors. So this is the tradition of God that we have to recognize in the world today. Now, as I already pointed out, in these pages, we see that the story is being repeated in a way for you to understand truly the mentality of the human being and what they are actually putting in as a sign for them to realize on themselves that on the day of judgment, they were disbelievers, they were arrogant, they were the people who were breaking the Quran and breaking the word of God and whatever God is revealing to his messengers. So you can see right here, God is saying that the messengers will be called that they have craziness in them or foolishness. And the thing that they are calling foolishness is the concept of putting one God, one deity that is controlling this reality. They rather follow what they found their forefathers on because they believe it gives them this prestige, just because they are the people who are controlling the land and what is around them. There are people who have chosen to be oppressors and transgressors in the way that they handle their day to day. And this is why when the messenger is speaking to them of reason and humanity and reminding them of God, for them, this sounds like it's a way to stop them on who they are. And that's why they will take it as a way of where they're ridiculing the person, putting the person down, because they truly believe that their position is higher than the position that God is giving them, yet God's position is much higher than what they're living. They've actually started to transgress and fall deeper away from God and away from how a human should be, and thus their position is now presented to you as something that is extremely low and bad. Obviously, these are the companions of hell. But what God is promising them is heaven and paradise, and this kind of mentality, it starts in the world in front of us. God clearly is telling us that here these messengers are sent and they are trustworthy. They're trustworthy that they are not lying. They are saying what they have experienced and what they're witnessing. While the other people here, they are talking in regards to what they found their their forefathers were worshiping, using these names that truly did not have any authority. They have no control over what can happen in reality, these names that they call, and they can't even hear them when they're calling these names. And if they did hear them, they can't respond. This is true misguidance. If you are going to be calling to an entity that contains a higher power, we're talking about the highest power now because we're using the word God. Do you not want to call upon the entity that created all and he himself was not created? This is truthfully the easiest way of understanding how the dominating logic works. Anything below that is just disgracing yourself. You are accepting something that is of a lower quality, lower grade of seeing what the reality could be, because the reality doesn't truly change. It's what you're perceiving of the reality is what makes up who you are. And your perception could be wrong. Your understanding could be wrong. And if you're a person that is not going to ponder about around if you're not going to ponder on this world that is around you, and you're just going to simply accept what your forefathers are telling you, you're more likely going to find yourself in a position where you are just being spoon-fed and you're following your idols. You're following the idols of your forefathers, because we see that the human is lazy. It is very difficult for the human to open the book and explore it on his own, which he's not on his own because he's going to allow his Lord to teach him and come to the conclusions that need to be arrived only by allowing God to guide them. The majority of the world wants to be spoon-fed. And when God does send a messenger to spoon-feed the people the correct information for them to take the right position, they are quickly to deny, they are quickly to argue, and they're quickly to say that the man is crazy, a fool, or is a liar, and why would God pick him? And this is where now these people, as a way to prove that the guy is a liar, they go by as far as asking, instead of for a sign from God, they ask for the punishment of God. Because the messenger, one of his duty is to warn them that if you are going to continue with this path, you're going to be lost, you're going to lose, you're going to be humbled, and you're going to experience some pain. And because of the way that they want to ridicule, they say, well, oh, I don't think you're accurate. And if what you're saying is true, bring the pain. I'll show you how you're lying. And when you say certain things like that, God is clearly telling us here in this story that these individuals, they have now they have now uh, invoked condemnation and wrath from their Lord, just simply because you're one denying the revelations, the mercy that God has given you, and then you are asking for the punishment instead of asking for forgiveness, instead of asking for mercy, instead of asking for guidance. The way you want to prove that the messenger is real is by asking for you to be destroyed. So now, if God does destroy you, it is too late for you to actually appreciate your messenger and believe in what the messenger said. So we do see people in this day and age, when they are challenged with their views or their religion, they want to turn into a way where it becomes a hostile environment, where they would go as far as even invoking God's condemnation or damnation upon themselves if what is being said is true, instead of actually taking a step back and allowing God to be the only God that is being served. And this is something that was being said to us here, where these people are saying that, did you come here to make us serve God alone? to serve. The word here, which is ibadah, it talks about servitude. Worshipping is adorning and loving and really deifying something that is worthy of being a deity, which is only God. You should only be worshiping God. But the word serving is you not only loving and glorifying and exalting your Lord, but working for your God. Now, these other individuals that are building rocks and then feeding these rocks or wiping the rocks and doing whatever they do to their idols or sitting there and decorating places with the names of the idols. Not only is this adornment, but this is also a form of servitude, which is spreading the name of these lords to whoever they want to spread them to, which they cannot avail them, benefit them, or even understand that that's what's happening. But it is a form of servitude when you want to pass that message across. Now, when it comes down to serving God alone, we see in this day and age, the example is not being fulfilled to a point where the people are calling upon other deities or deifying other entities other than God Himself, but they do not serve God alone. They're serving all these other entities that do not serve, they themselves do not serve God. They are upkeeping all these rules and judgments that God Himself has not ordained, so they're not worshiping or serving God alone. And when this example is presented to any individual that is going through that kind of process, they have the same responses and similar responses which the messengers and the prophet received. So God is showing you in your day to day that when you are expressing to others that they should be serving God alone, for us to be a healthy community and for us not to endure these pains and the ways that God punishes certain communities for their idolatry, they quickly put you through what the prophets went through, but God is telling us on how to react, on what to do, and how to approach the matter. And this is why those that truly love this book, they automatically become somewhat of a disciple of the blessed prophet who has received this book, because you start to endure a little bit of what he and the other messengers had to endure, and God is testing you by giving you the words that needs to be said, and you recognizing what needs to be said, or you recognizing what you need to do. This is the wisdom that comes behind these words that God has given us. So we see these prophets and these messengers are called liars, they're called fools. And then the messenger is simply replying, my people, I do not have foolishness in me. I am just inviting you to your Lord. Why do you not forgive your Lord when I'm inviting you to your Lord? And then this is when they start to argue with your falsehood. And then God tells you they argue with the falsehood and so that they would cancel out the truth. But the truth cannot be canceled even if they brought the truth cannot be canceled. And in fact, the truth, it diminishes the falsehood. And then we see that here that God's condemnation, their damnation has befallen upon them for asking for the damnation, and then God is going to destroy them, but we have to express this patience. And this is why we're told to say, I'm going to wait, just like how you're going to wait, and we're both going to see the same result. But you're going to be on one side of the result, and I'm going to be on the other side. And only one of us is fair or is real or true. And God clearly tells us that the messengers and those that follow the messenger, our only duty is to notify and to tell the people what God has revealed in the book. And then there is a promise that we have to bank on, that we have to believe, that we have to trust, that we have to certify, because it has been repeated to us many times in the Quran, where God is clearly telling us that He's going to save the messenger and those that believed with the messenger, and then He is going to, in the case of Hud, remove them and cut their roots and cut everything about them, in so much that as if they didn't even survive or live in that land or build into that land. So everything they held so dearly is no longer now availing them, nor are they enjoying it, nor are they even present to realize that they have been removed the way that they have been removed. But they did not consider that when they were alive, because when they realized that they were such transgressing people and all the works went to complete vain because it did not carry on, they're going to realize that they have been wasting their whole life sitting there upkeeping this type of arrogance mentality, pride, nationalism, only to realize that the other way was the right way, to let go of these kind of ideologies and to sit in with the right type of character and personality and morality that God has expressed to us through His messengers. And then God tells us into the other story, and we have only one verse in regards to Thamud and the messenger Salih. Here, they have been given a clear proof that they are transgressors, that they are oppressors. They are acting like these are people, they say they are people that are trying to perform righteous deeds and they're fixing, yet they are powerful and they believe that nobody can truly stop them. But they, in their mind, they're just decorating their own deeds, thinking that it's good. So when God is sending them an innocent creature like a camel and told them, don't hurt it, the first intention, the first reaction that they had is, no, I want to hurt it. You can't tell me I can't hurt it. And they went and hurt an innocent camel. This is a very clear evidence and proof that these people will not listen to reason and they are just bullies. They are arrogant bullies based in fear, and they just want to inject this fear and this terrorism to the people around them. And this is why it is very imperative for them to be removed from the world, because they don't even give a camel, a she camel, its respect that it is an innocent animal. There was no empathy towards it. They just removed it despite the messenger telling them do not touch it. And because they have touched it, we could clearly see that they're sealed, and this would be the final step or the final move, which at that point they would see that they have to be removed. But God also tells us that within this camel, there is a very clear eye, there's a very clear sign. It could be that they are in a region where camels don't usually move or are present in that area, and God has sent them a camel. Or the other thing is that the camel is drinking in a specific way, which shows to the people that it is also a sign. There's many ways of understanding how it itself is a sign, but how they dealt with the camel is the bigger lesson. Now, the thing is, the way that they treated the camel is the way they got treated at the end. Because you could see here, God is calling this camel that it is God's camel. Of course, God doesn't write it. Of course, it's not something where it's God is requiring, or it's in regards to something where God uses, as I said, but rather it is the property of God. Yes, this whole earth is the property of God, but God can delegate some sovereignty to certain individuals. And some people can take something that God has given them, say a car or a house, and dedicate it back to God. And therefore, it is God's property, not that God actually utilizes it. So when God is saying that it's his camel, now there's an off limit. You cannot just ride the camel when you want without you actually accepting rules if there's rules. And most importantly, you can't hurt this animal because it's God's property. Now, if I came into your house and destroyed your house, you would be a person that would be seeking justice. You're going to go to a just judge, explain to you the situation, you bring your evidence, you bring your witnesses, and at that point, the judge will rule in your favor and then punish the person that destroyed your property. Now, if you're going to destroy God's property or hurt God's property, he is both the judge, the just judge, and the executioner. So you do not want to place yourself in a position where you're guilty in God's court. And this is exactly what these people did. So we could see that now the concept of the tradition of God is also going to be fulfilled on them. We're going to see what they had to endure. Of course, these stories are being introduced to us the first time, the way that God is detailing the stories of these messengers. But we're going to realize in the Quran that these stories are oftenly repeated. They're repeated with different details, whether the detail is not present at one point or more details are added in different settings, which at the end we get even a more bigger and more detailed picture. It is for us to judge certain environments and certain situations and communities and governments that are alive and present in this day and age. And we see how they actually react to the message of God and the revelations of God. And we can see that some nations start to follow the examples of these nations that God has damned for their sins and cursed them for their sins and obviously removed them because of what they did and how they approached life. And we can see that these communities are following that track, and us ourselves, we do not want to be part of this, these believers. With that said, I hope you guys are enjoying these. All praise to our Lord, the Lord of the worlds. Peace be upon you.